Welcome, everyone. This is Lecture 2 of Business Intelligence and Management Support Systems course. In today's session, we are going to move from the foundational understanding of what business intelligence is into the practical strategies that organizations use to actually implement and benefit from it. By the end of this lecture, you will have a solid understanding of how BI is applied at different levels of an organization, what a BI platform looks like under the hood, how organizations progress through different stages of data maturity, and how to design the right metrics and KPIs to measure success. Throughout the entire lecture, we will be grounding every concept in a single running case study, a fictional regional bank called Secure Bank, so that you can see exactly how these ideas work in a real-world business context. Let us get started. We have 6 main topics. We start with the 3 types of BI applications. From there, we will look at where BI creates business value across an organization. Then we will open up the BI platform and explore the 7 distinct styles of BI that sit inside it. The second half of the lecture moves into the process side of things. We will cover the BI data maturity model. We will then look at BI strategy and the people involved, which is often underestimated but critically important. And we will finish with metrics and KPIs. Arguably, the most practically useful topic in the entire course, because it directly informs how you measure whether a BI initiative is actually working. These 6 sections are not isolated. Each one builds on the previous, so follow along carefully.
Throughout today's lecture, every concept we discuss will be illustrated using a single organization, Secure Bank Limited. Secure Bank is a mid-sized regional bank with 2.4 million customers. Their product range covers the typical banking portfolio: savings accounts, personal and business loans, credit cards, and investment products. They are not a small bank, but they are not a global institution either, which makes them a realistic and relatable example. Now, the reason Secure Bank decided to invest in business intelligence was because they were facing 3 serious challenges. First, their customer churn rate was rising, meaning customers were leaving for competitors, and the bank did not know why until it was too late. Second, they were losing approximately $42 million every year to fraud. And third, their internal reporting was entirely manual. Teams were spending days compiling spreadsheets instead of making decisions. Their response was to invest $8 million in a BI program, with an expected return on investment within 18 months. On the right side of this slide, you can see the 5 key questions that Secure Bank needed BI to answer. Which customers are likely to leave? Which transactions are fraudulent? How profitable is each customer segment? Which branch is underperforming? And what is the optimal credit limit per customer? These are not abstract questions. They are the kinds of decisions that every bank, every retailer, every hospital faces. And BI is the discipline that gives organizations the tools to answer them with data rather than intuition. Keep Secure Bank in mind throughout this lecture. Every time I introduce a new concept, I will show you exactly how it applies there. We begin with Section 1. BI applications. Specifically, we are going to look at the 3 fundamental types: strategic, tactical, and operational, and understand not just what they mean, but who uses them, when, and for what purpose. Business intelligence used for decision-making can be broken into 3 distinct levels, and it is important to understand that these are not just categories. They reflect fundamentally different purposes, different users, and different time horizons. At the top, we have strategic BI. This is the long-term view. Strategic BI applications are designed for executives and C-suite leadership. The decisions being made at this level are about where the organization is heading over the next 1, 3, or 5 years. The metrics involved are things like revenue growth, return on equity, market share, and customer retention. At Secure Bank, this would be the CEO's view of the 5-year strategy, tracking whether the bank is growing profitably and remaining competitive. In the middle, we have tactical BI. This is the medium-term view, days, weeks, or months. Tactical BI is used by managers and analysts within specific business units. They are not making enterprise-wide strategy decisions. They are managing campaigns, monitoring department performance, and solving problems within their area of responsibility. At Secure Bank, a branch manager using Tactical B, I might be analyzing whether a specific loan promotion campaign in Colombo is hitting its conversion targets. At the bottom, we have Operational BI. This is the real-time ground-level view. Operational BI supports frontline staff and operations teams who need to make fast, in-the-moment decisions. At Secure Bank, this is the fraud detection team watching a live dashboard and deciding within minutes whether to freeze a suspicious transaction. Notice the progression here. As you move from operational to strategic, the decisions become less frequent but higher stakes. As you move from strategic to operational, the decisions become faster and more focused on immediate action. A well-designed BI system needs to support all three levels simultaneously. Let us go deeper into strategic BI. The purpose of strategic BI is to help senior leadership assess progress towards long-term, enterprise-wide goals. Now look at the panel on the right. This shows a set of real strategic KPIs, as they might appear on a Secure Bank executive dashboard. Notice a few things here. Net interest margin is at 4.2% and trending upward. That is positive. Return on equity is at 12.1%, also trending up. Digital channel adoption is at 67% and rising, which tells leadership that their digital investment is paying off. But look at customer retention rate. It is at 89% and trending downward. That arrow pointing down is a warning signal. In strategic BI, this single indicator does not just tell the CFO that customers are leaving. It automatically raises a question that must be passed down to the tactical level. Why is this happening, and which specific customer segments or branches are driving this decline? This is a critical insight about how the three levels of BI connect. A signal picked up at the strategic level triggers investigation at the tactical level. The data flows both ways, from ground-level operations up to strategy, and from strategic concerns back down into operational response. Now let us look at Tactical BI in more detail. Tactical BI, which is sometimes also called Analytical BI, focuses on analyzing short-term initiatives within specific business domains. Marketing campaigns, sales performance, purchasing decisions, customer service effectiveness. The users are middle managers, marketing leads, and business analysts. The tools are analytical dashboards with drill-down capability, trend analysis reports, and comparative views. The time horizon is daily to monthly. The key word here is drill down. Tactical BI is not just about seeing a number. It is about being able to click into that number and understand exactly where it comes from. If a campaign is performing poorly overall, Tactical BI lets you isolate whether the problem is a specific region, a specific product, a specific time period, or a specific customer segment. Look at the bar chart on the right side of this slide. This shows the credit card upgrade campaign conversion rate broken down by branch region at Secure Bank. The North, East, and West branches are all converting at around 4%. Central is slightly better at 6%, but look at South, 11.7%. The South branch is converting at nearly 3 times the rate of every other region. What does a good BI analyst do when they see this? They do not just report the number. They investigate. Is it the branch manager, the local demographics, a particular sales approach? Once you understand why South is outperforming, you can replicate that success elsewhere and reallocate your marketing budget accordingly. This is the power of Tactical BI. It turns aggregate numbers into actionable insights. The third type is Operational BI, and this is where BI gets closest to the live, moment-to-moment running of a business. Operational BI is process-centric. It is designed to monitor and optimize specific business processes, not at a strategic or departmental level, but at the transaction level. The users are frontline staff, fraud analysts, call center supervisors, inventory managers, and branch operations teams. The tools are real-time dashboards, automated alerting systems, and exception reports. And critically, the time horizon is intraday, sometimes even sub-minute. Look at the metrics displayed in the top right of this slide. Right now, Secure Bank is processing 2,841 transactions per minute. In the past hour, 37 transactions have been flagged as suspicious. Of those, 4 have been confirmed as fraudulent, and the average response time from detection to action is 3.8 minutes. Below those metrics is a line chart showing how fraud flags have varied across the trading day, from 8 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. Notice the spike at midday. That kind of pattern matters. It tells the operations team when to have more analysts available. The blue box at the bottom describes the operational workflow precisely. The dashboard refreshes every 60 seconds. If a card is used in 2 different countries within 30 minutes, which is physically impossible for a genuine customer, an alert fires automatically. An analyst reviews it, freezes the card if it looks suspicious, and contacts the customer, all within 4 minutes. This is operational BI in practice. It is not about looking back at what happened last month. It is about knowing what is happening right now and being able to respond before damage is done. We now move into Section 2, BI Business Value. We have established what the 3 types of BI applications are. Now let us look at where across an organization, BI actually creates measurable impact. The value that business intelligence delivers does not sit in just one part of an organization. It cuts across every major category of business activity. We can group these into 3 broad process categories. The first is management processes. This includes planning and budgeting, performance monitoring, process improvement, and cost analysis. At Secure Bank, the CFO uses BI to build annual budget forecasts and to monitor the cost-to-income ratio for every branch on a monthly basis. Previously, this required finance teams to manually compile reports over several days. With BI, it is automated and available in real time. The second category is revenue-generating processes. This includes customer segmentation, campaign management, sales optimization, and channel management. At Secure Bank, BI segments all 2.4 million customers by their lifetime value, then targets the highest value segment with premium investment products, because that group generates a disproportionately large share of the bank's revenue. The third category is resource consumption processes. This covers product and service development, order and loan management, and supply chain and operations management. At Secure Bank, BI monitors how long it takes for each branch to process a loan application. By identifying which branches have bottlenecks and why, the bank was able to redesign its processes and reduce the average approval time by 40%. What is important to understand here is that BI does not just add value in one corner of the organization. When implemented properly, it improves decision-making across all 3 of these process categories simultaneously. That is why companies with mature BI capabilities consistently outperform those without. Let us look at one of those revenue-generating applications in more depth. Customer segmentation. This slide is structured as a series of business questions on the left, paired with how BI answers each one at Secure Bank on the right. This is a useful way to think about BI generally. Start with the business question, then work backwards to what data and analysis you need. The first question is, what segments exist within our customer base? BI allows Secure Bank to group all 2.4 million customers by a combination of factors: age, income bracket, product usage patterns, and digital behavior. This alone is far richer than anything a spreadsheet can produce. The second question is, who will actually respond to my promotional offer? Rather than sending a campaign to every customer, BI builds a propensity to buy model. Only customers with a greater than 70% likelihood of responding receive the offer. This cuts campaign cost by 60% while improving conversion rates. The third question is about lifetime profitability. BI reveals that the top 10% of customers generate 65% of the bank's total profit. That insight completely changes how the bank prioritizes its retention efforts. It stops treating all customers equally. The fourth question is about churn risk. BI flags 12,000 high-value customers as being at risk of leaving during this particular quarter. The bank can then intervene proactively, a personalized call, a better offer, a relationship manager visit, before those customers actually leave. And finally, channel optimization. B. I tells the bank that digitally active younger customers prefer to be engaged through the mobile app, while older customers respond better to branch visits or phone calls. The communication strategy is personalized accordingly. This slide demonstrates something important. BI is not just about reporting what happened. It is about generating insight that drives specific, profitable action. We now move into Section 3, the BI platform and the 7 styles of business intelligence. This section is important because it helps you understand what is actually happening under the hood when an organization uses BI tools. This slide shows a layered architecture diagram of how a BI platform is structured. I want you to read this diagram from the bottom upwards because data flows from the bottom to the top. At the very bottom are the source systems. These are the raw data origins. In Secure Bank's case, the core banking system, the CRM, the transaction database, and external data feeds like credit bureau data. These systems generate enormous volumes of data every second, but that data is not clean, it is not organized, and it is not in a form that a business user can analyze directly. One level up is the ETL layer. ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. This is the engineering layer that takes raw data from the source systems, cleans and standardizes it, and loads it into the data warehouse. At Secure Bank, a new batch of transaction records is loaded into the warehouse every night. Above the ETL layer sits the data warehouse or data mart. This is the central repository of integrated, cleaned historical data. It is designed specifically for analysis, not for day-to-day transactions. Think of it as the organized library of everything the organization knows about its past. Above the data warehouse is the BI platform itself. This is the analytical engine, the layer that performs OLAP analysis, data mining, visualization, reporting, alerting, and more. We will look at each of these capabilities in the next 2 slides. Above the platform are the BI applications, the dashboards, reports, and scorecards that are built on top of the platform for specific business purposes. And at the very top are the business users, the executives, managers, analysts, and operations staff who consume the information. The critical insight from this diagram is that the BI platform acts as an intelligent intermediary between users and data. It shields business users from the technical complexity of the underlying systems. A CFO does not need to know anything about SQL or database schemas. They just open their dashboard and the answers are there. A BI platform does not deliver intelligence in just one way. In fact, it provides 7 distinct styles of analysis and interaction, each designed for a different type of user and a different type of question. The first style is data mining and predictive analytics. This uses statistical algorithms and machine learning to find hidden patterns in data and predict future outcomes. We will go deeper into this shortly. The second style is OLAP analysis, online analytical processing. OLAP allows users to slice, dice, drill down into and rotate multidimensional data. It is particularly powerful for exploring combinations of dimensions, such as sales by region, by product line, and by time period all at once. The third style is data discovery and visualization. This is the interactive, exploratory side of BI. Heat maps, scatter plots, geographic maps, charts. It helps users find patterns and trends visually, often revealing things that numbers alone would not surface. Fourth are dashboards and scorecards. the at-a-glance performance monitoring tools we have already discussed. Fifth is enterprise reporting, the production of formal, highly formatted, print-ready documents such as financial statements, compliance reports, and investor communications. Sixth is transaction services. This is an interesting one because it extends BI beyond read-only analysis. It allows users to enter or update data directly within the BI environment, making BI a two-way living system rather than just a passive reporting tool. And seventh is mobile applications and alerting. The ability to deliver the right information to the right person at the right time on any device, triggered either by a schedule or by a data event. Together, these 7 styles give you the complete picture of what a modern BI platform is capable of. Let us go deeper into 2 of those styles, data mining and OLAP, because they are foundational to understanding how advanced BI works. Data mining and predictive analytics uses statistical techniques and machine learning to uncover patterns that are not visible to the naked eye and to predict what is likely to happen next. The tools commonly used include IR, SAS, SPSS, and Python libraries, such as scikit-learn. At Secure Bank, data mining is used to predict which customers are likely to default on their loans within the next 90 days, with a precision rate of 84%. That means for every 100 customers, the model flags 84 actually do default. That is actionable intelligence. Now look at the right side of this slide. This is the analytical maturity model, shown as a horizontal progress bar for each level. Read it from the top downward as ascending maturity. At the lowest level, 10% maturity, organizations are doing data summarization. They are asking the question, what is happening in the aggregate? Total sales, total transactions, total customers. This is where most organizations begin. At 20% is trend analysis. Now the question is, what direction are we heading? Are numbers going up or down over time? At 35% is benchmarking. How do we compare against our competitors or industry standards? At 55% is relationship analysis. This is where it gets interesting. What factors actually influence the behavior we are observing? For example, what drives customer churn? At 75% is predictions. What is likely to happen based on historical patterns? And at the very top, 95% maturity, is optimization. What is the best action to take? This is where BI merges with decision intelligence and machine learning to recommend specific actions. Most organizations are somewhere in the lower half of this model. Reaching the top requires significant investment in data quality, engineering capability, and analytical talent. OLAP analysis is a complementary capability. It enables users to explore multidimensional data, such as loan profitability broken down by region, product type, and customer segment, simultaneously and interactively. The key OLAP operations are slice and dice, which lets you filter and isolate specific dimensions, drill down and roll up, which lets you zoom in to granular detail or zoom out to a summary, and pivot, which lets you rearrange dimensions to view the data from a different angle. Now let us look at 3 more styles: dashboards, scorecards, and enterprise reporting. Dashboards are probably the most familiar form of BI output. They graphically represent live or near-live performance metrics using visual elements like gauges, charts, geographic maps, and color-coded indicators. A good dashboard provides an integrated view of data from across the enterprise on a single screen. The key word here is integrated. A dashboard should not require the user to switch between 12 different reports to get a complete picture. At Secure Bank, the CEO's dashboard shows the net interest margin, customer churn rate, fraud losses, and branch profit and loss, all in one place, updated daily. Scorecards are slightly different from dashboards, though the two are often confused. A scorecard is specifically designed to track progress toward formal, predefined goals. They often follow established methodologies such as the Balanced Scorecard Framework, which evaluates performance across 4 perspectives: financial, customer, internal processes, and learning and growth. A scorecard always shows an actual value versus a target. It is inherently about measuring success against a plan. At Secure Bank, each branch has a monthly scorecard showing loans issued versus target, customer satisfaction versus target, and fraud cases detected. Enterprise reporting is the third style. This is the production of formal, highly formatted business documents, financial statements, regulatory compliance reports, invoices, annual investor reports. These are not interactive. They are designed to be printed or published. They are pixel perfect, meaning they look exactly the same every time and meet precise formatting requirements. At Secure Bank, the monthly profit and loss report and the central bank compliance reports are generated automatically by the Enterprise Reporting module. What distinguishes these 3 styles is their purpose. Dashboards are for situational awareness. Scorecards are for performance accountability. Reporting is for formal communication and compliance. We come now to the final 3 BI styles: transaction services, data discovery and visualization, and mobile applications and alerting. Transaction services is perhaps the most underappreciated style. Most people think of BI as a read-only activity. You query the data and read the results. But transaction services extends BI to allow users to write back to the system as well. A loan officer at Secure Bank can update a customer's risk rating directly within the BI tool. The moment they do, the underlying model recalculates the customer's recommended credit limit and updates their profile. This transforms BI from a passive reporting layer into an active decision support system. The examples listed here give you a sense of how broad this capability is: entering sales leads, updating churn probabilities, approving expense requests, submitting employee reviews. Data discovery and visualization is about giving analysts the freedom to explore data interactively using rich visual tools. Unlike dashboards, which are designed to monitor predefined metrics, data discovery is about open-ended exploration. At Secure Bank, a geographic heat map was used to discover that fraud was clustering in specific postal codes, a pattern that would not have been visible in a standard table. That discovery led to targeted controls in those specific areas. Mobile applications and alerting is about ensuring that the right person gets the right information at the right time, wherever they are. The panel on the right breaks this down into 4 types. Time-based alerts send a scheduled report automatically. For example, branch performance summaries delivered to managers every Monday morning. Event-based alerts fire when a specific business condition is met. For example, alerting the CFO when daily loan disbursements exceed $50 million. Data-driven alerts are triggered by analytical thresholds. For example, notifying the fraud team the moment a transaction risk score exceeds 0.92. And mobile access means executives can approve decisions from their phone, loan exceptions, expense approvals, real-time dashboard access. When an organization decides to invest in a BI platform, one of the first questions they face is, which vendor should we choose? The Gartner Magic Quadrant is the most widely used framework for making that comparison. Gartner is a global research and advisory firm, and every year they publish a Magic Quadrant report for business intelligence and analytics platforms. It compares vendors on 2 axes. The horizontal axis is completeness of vision, meaning how well the vendor understands where the market is heading and whether their product roadmap reflects that. The vertical axis is ability to execute, meaning how well the vendor actually delivers on their vision in terms of product quality, sales, customer support, and market presence. Based on these 2 dimensions, vendors fall into one of 4 quadrants. Leaders, in the top right, have both a strong vision and the ability to execute on it. Challengers in the top left execute well, but may not have the most forward-looking vision. Visionaries in the bottom right have innovative ideas, but have not yet proven their ability to execute at scale. And niche players in the bottom left serve specific segments, but are not leading in either dimension. Looking at the diagram, you can see that Microsoft Power BI and Tableau, which is now owned by Salesforce, are positioned firmly in the leaders quadrant. They have consistently appeared there for many years. Qlik is also in or near the leaders space. Amazon Web Services and Alibaba Cloud are in the challengers quadrant. They have strong execution capability, particularly in large enterprises, but their product vision is considered less cutting edge. SAS, IBM, SAP, and MicroStrategy sits in the visionaries quadrant. Strong cloud integration and data modeling, but still building out its market presence. For Secure Bank, the choice was Microsoft Power BI, primarily because their workforce was already familiar with Microsoft Office, which accelerated user adoption significantly. As we will discuss later in the lecture, the best tool is not necessarily the most technically advanced one, it is the one that people will actually use. We now move into Section 4, the BI data maturity process. This section shifts our focus from the tools and structures of BI to the operational process that drives it, specifically the three-stage progression of capture, analyze, and monitor. Data maturity refers to an organization's ability to use data effectively for actionable insights. The higher the data maturity, the better an organization is at translating raw data into decisions. And at the heart of building data maturity is a three-stage process: capture, analyze, and monitor. The first stage is capture, which answers the question, what happened? This is the backward-looking stage. BI professionals collect and store historical data. The data at this stage is static. It is a record of past events. At Secure Bank, an example would be querying the database to retrieve last month's loan default records. This tells you what occurred, but it doesn't tell you why, and it doesn't tell you what to do next. It is the foundation, but it is not sufficient on its own. The second stage is Analyse, which answers the question, why did it happen? This is where the real intelligence begins. Analysts interpret the captured data, look for patterns, and uncover relationships. At Secure Bank, analysis revealed that loan defaults spike sharply when a customer misses 3 or more payments within a 60-day window. That is not obvious from raw data, it requires systematic analysis to discover. The benefit of this stage is that it reveals the hidden causes behind the outcomes you observed in the capture stage. The third stage is monitor, which answers the question, what is happening now? This is the real-time stage. Using dashboards, automated pipelines, and alerting systems, organizations set up continuous monitoring based on what they learned in the Analyze stage. At Secure Bank, high-risk accounts are now flagged in real time, and a customer outreach is automatically triggered before the account reaches a point of default. Notice the arrows between the three stages in the diagram. They flow in one direction. Capture feeds into Analyse, which feeds into monitor. The stages are sequential and dependent. You cannot analyze data you have not captured, and you cannot monitor effectively without knowing what to watch for, which only the Analyse stage can tell you. Now, let us bring the three stages back to Secure Bank and apply them to their fraud detection problem, because this is the most complete real-world illustration of how capture, analyze, and monitor work together in practice. In the capture stage, Secure Bank collects data on every single transaction processed through their systems. That means the timestamp, the amount, the location, the merchant, the device ID, the IP address, 180 million records every month. This is the raw material. Without this comprehensive data capture, nothing else is possible. In the Analyze stage, data scientists examine that historical data to identify the patterns that characterize fraudulent behavior. Three of the most predictive patterns they find are transactions exceeding $5,000 after business hours, a card being used in 2 different countries within less than 1 hour, which is physically impossible for a genuine customer, and a large transfer made from a new, unrecognized device. These patterns become the basis of the fraud detection model. In the monitor stage, that model is deployed in real time. Every single transaction, all 2,800 that arrive every minute, is run through the scoring model as it occurs. If a transaction receives a fraud score above 0.88, 3 things happen automatically. The card is frozen, the customer receives an alert, and the case is escalated to an analyst for review. Now look at the results shown at the bottom of this slide. After implementing this 3-stage BI program, Secure Bank achieved a fraud detection rate of 94%. The average response time is 3.8 minutes. Annual fraud savings total $38 million. And customer satisfaction improved by 22%. Because customers now feel protected and receive rapid communication when something looks wrong. This is the full power of BI applied end-to-end. It starts with data, it builds understanding, and it drives automated, intelligent action at scale. We move now into Section 5, BI strategy and stakeholders. Having the right technology is only part of the equation. Successfully implementing BI requires managing the people, processes, and tools that surround it, and understanding who the stakeholders are and what role each one plays. ABI strategy is the management of the people, processes, and tools used across the entire business intelligence program. All 3 pillars must be aligned for a BI initiative to succeed. An organization can have the best BI software in the world, but if the people do not know how to use it or trust it, and if the processes for managing data are poorly defined, the technology will fail to deliver value. Let us go through each pillar. People. This is about ensuring that the right individuals are involved, communicating effectively, and collaborating across teams. B. I should not be owned by the IT department alone. It requires input from business users at every level of the organization. At Secure Bank, data scientists, fraud analysts, and branch managers all use the same BI platform. Getting those groups to work together, to agree on what the data means, to share insights, and to trust each other's analysis was one of the most challenging aspects of the project. Processes. This pillar covers the rules and policies that govern how data is collected, cleaned, stored, accessed, and used. A process might define who is responsible for the quality of a particular dataset, how often it should be updated, or what approval is required before a new report is published. At Secure Bank, a Data Governance Council was established to review all BI metrics quarterly. This ensures that every number on every dashboard is accurate and has a clear owner. Tools. This is the technology pillar. The dashboards, reporting platforms, data pipelines, and analytical tools. The key principle here is that the best tool is the one your users will actually adopt. A technically superior product that nobody uses is worthless. Secure Bank chose Microsoft Power BI for their dashboards, specifically because the workforce was already comfortable with Excel and the Microsoft Office ecosystem, which dramatically reduced the time and cost of training. Remember, people, processes, tools, all 3 must be managed together.
Any BI project involves 4 types of stakeholders. A stakeholder is anyone who invests time or resources into the project and has a genuine interest in its outcome. They are often referred to as clients or users of the system. The first stakeholder is the project sponsor. This is the individual with ultimate accountability for the entire project. They are the ones who define what success looks like, who advocate for the project internally to secure budget and executive support, and who communicate progress and changes to the broader organization. At Secure Bank, the project sponsor is the Chief Risk Officer, the most senior person accountable for fraud losses. They set the headline target: reduce fraud losses by 40%. The second stakeholder is the systems analyst. This person serves as the bridge between the business world and the technical world. Their job is to listen to what the project sponsor and business stakeholders need, and then translate those needs into precise, detailed technical specifications that developers can actually build from. They also check whether requirements are realistic given the available data, time, and technology. At Secure Bank, the systems analyst documented that the fraud dashboard must process 3,000 transactions per second with 99.9% uptime, a requirement that directly shaped the engineering architecture. The third stakeholder is the developer. Developers are responsible for actually building the BI system. There are two types: application software developers, who build the dashboards, reports, and user-facing tools, and system software developers, who build the data pipelines, ETL processes, and back-end infrastructure. At Secure Bank, an application developer built the fraud dashboard in Power BI, while a system developer engineered the real-time pipeline that feeds transaction data from the core banking system into the dashboard. The fourth stakeholder is the business stakeholder. These are the people who ultimately use the finished product to do their jobs. They provide requirements at the beginning of the project and feedback throughout. Their input is what keeps the BI system grounded in real business needs rather than technical assumptions. At Secure Bank, the fraud analysts who use the dashboard daily were central to shaping one of its most useful features, the Top 20 Suspicious Accounts view, based on their operational experience. We arrive at our sixth and final section, metrics and KPIs. This is arguably the most practically important topic in today's lecture, because no matter how sophisticated your BI platform is, it is only as useful as the measures it tracks. Choosing the wrong metrics is one of the most common and most costly mistakes organizations make in BI. Let us start by establishing a clear distinction between a metric and a key performance indicator, because these two terms are frequently confused even by experienced practitioners. A metric is simply a single, quantifiable data point that measures some aspect of performance. Metrics are neutral. They measure things without inherently judging whether those things matter to the business's strategy. Look at the examples in the dark blue panel on the left. Page loading speed, number of login attempts, daily transaction volume, number of fraud alerts generated, average call handle time. These are all measurements. They tell you something factual about what is happening in the system. A key performance indicator, or KPI, is a specific type of metric that is directly and explicitly linked to a strategic business goal. A KPI is not just measuring something, it is measuring progress towards an objective. It always has a target. Look at the examples in the blue panel on the right. Fraud detection rate with a target of greater than 92%, customer churn rate with a target of less than 8%, loan approval time with a target of under 24 hours. Every KPI tells you not just what the current value is, but whether you are succeeding or failing against a defined standard. The relationship between the two is stated at the bottom of this slide. All KPIs are metrics, but not all metrics are KPIs. A metric becomes a KPI only when it is directly tied to a strategic business objective and has a meaningful target. This distinction matters enormously in practice. Organizations that track only raw metrics without connecting them to strategy end up with dashboards full of numbers that generate no action. The discipline of defining good KPIs is what keeps BI focused on outcomes rather than activity. To fully understand where KPIs and metrics sit, we need to understand the relationship between strategy and tactics. A strategy is a plan for achieving a desired future state. It is the big picture direction, the answer to the question, where do we want to be, and why? A strategy does not describe individual actions, it describes goals. At Secure Bank, the strategy is to become the most trusted bank in the region by reducing fraud losses by 40% within 2 years. A tactic, on the other hand, is a specific method or action taken to execute the strategy. Tactics answer the question, how are we going to get there? They are the concrete, time-bound steps that move the organization towards its strategic goal. At Secure Bank, one tactic is to deploy a real-time machine learning fraud scoring system on all card transactions by the third quarter of the financial year. Now look at the cascading flow diagram on the right side of this slide. This is the critical connection. The strategy sits at the top, reduce fraud losses by 40%. Below it is the KPI, fraud detection rate greater than 92%. This KPI is the strategic measurement. It tells leadership whether the strategy is working. Below the KPI is the tactic. Deploy machine learning scoring on all transactions. This is the action that drives the KPI. And at the bottom is a metric. The number of transactions scored per minute. This metric measures the execution of the tactic. It tells the technical team whether the system is running correctly. The key insight from this diagram is that KPIs measure strategic progress. They answer the question, are we winning? Metrics measure tactical execution. They answer the question, are we working correctly? Both are necessary. A high KPI with poor underlying metrics might mean you got lucky. Poor metrics even with a good KPI might mean you are heading for a future failure. Knowing the difference between a metric and a KPI is important, but knowing how to write a good one is equally critical. The SMART framework gives us a practical checklist for evaluating whether a metric or KPI is well defined. SMART stands for specific, measurable, action-oriented, relevant, and time-bound. Specific means the metric is focused and unambiguous. It avoids vague language. A bad example would be improve response time. A specific version would be reduce the average first response time for fraud alerts. You know exactly what is being measured. Measurable means it can be tracked with numerical data. The example here goes further. Reduce response time from 12 hours to 4 hours. Now you have a starting point and a destination. The metric can be tracked objectively. Action-oriented means the metric is tied to a specific decision or task. It is not just a number being watched passively. Achieving it requires doing something concrete. In our example, the action is to implement a new help desk system and provide staff training. Relevant means the metric is genuinely aligned to a business goal that matters. Faster fraud response times improve customer satisfaction, which is a strategic priority. The metric is not just interesting, it is important. And time-bound means there is a clear deadline. In our example, achieve the target response time within 60 days. Without a deadline, improvement goals drift indefinitely. When you are defining metrics for a BI dashboard, run each one through these 5 criteria. If a metric fails even one of them, it is a signal that it needs to be refined. A metric that is specific, measurable, action-oriented, relevant, and time-bound will drive real organizational behavior. One that is not will simply occupy space on a screen. Now we come to one of the most powerful concepts in metrics design, the North Star metric. A North Star metric is a specific kind of KPI, a single high-level measurement that is intended to capture the core value that an organization's product or service delivers to its customers over the long term. Unlike most KPIs, which track progress on a specific initiative or within a specific function, the North Star metric is meant to represent the health of the entire business. If the NSM is growing in the right direction, the organization is fundamentally succeeding. Look at the examples on the right side of this slide. For Spotify, the North Star metric is total time spent listening per user per month. Not subscriber count, not revenue, time spent listening, because that reflects how much genuine value users are getting from the platform. For Airbnb, it is nights booked per month. For Facebook, it is daily active users. For Uber, it is trips completed per week. Notice that in each case, the NSM is not a financial metric. It is a measure of value delivered to the customer, because the belief is that if you consistently deliver genuine value, the financial results will follow. For Secure Bank, the proposed North Star metric is the percentage of customers who have an active daily banking relationship with the bank. Not total account holders, active, engaged customers who are genuinely using the bank as their primary financial institution. That is a much more meaningful measure of long-term health. An important point about the relationship between NSMs and KPIs: all North Star metrics are KPIs, but not all KPIs are North Star metrics. A company might have dozens of KPIs tracking specific initiatives, but only one North Star, which aligns every team around the same fundamental goal. On the opposite end of the spectrum from the North Star metric, we have vanity metrics. A vanity metric is a number that looks impressive in a presentation but does not reflect real performance and does not enable any actionable decision. This slide shows 4 before and after comparisons. In each case, a vanity metric on the left is replaced by an actionable alternative on the right. The first example: total website visits versus conversion rate. Getting 1 million visits to your website sounds impressive. But if none of those visitors are opening accounts or making purchases, the traffic is meaningless. The conversion rate, the percentage of visitors who actually complete a valuable action, is what matters strategically. Second, social media followers versus customer acquisition via social campaign. Having 100,000 followers on a company's social media account tells you nothing about whether social media is driving business value. The actionable metric is how many new customers were acquired as a direct result of a specific social campaign. Third, total fraud alerts, generated versus fraud detection rate plus false positive rate. More alerts might actually mean the system is generating more noise, not catching more fraud. What matters is precision. What percentage of flagged transactions are genuinely fraudulent, and what percentage of legitimate transactions are being incorrectly blocked? And fourth, number of reports published versus percentage of decisions informed by BI data. Producing reports is not the goal of business intelligence. The goal is to change the quality of decisions. A BI team that publishes 50 reports per month but whose work is ignored has achieved nothing. A BI team whose analysis directly shapes 20 major decisions per month is delivering genuine value. The lesson here is straightforward. Always ask what a metric is actually for. If changing that metric does not change how the business behaves, it is probably a vanity metric. We close the metrics and KPIs section with 4 practical guidelines for selecting the right metrics for any BI project. The first guideline is: limit the number of metrics. More data is not better data. A dashboard with 60 metrics does not give users 60 times as much insight. It gives them confusion. The goal is to identify the smallest set of metrics that are critical to the project's success. A useful test: if this metric changes, will I actually do something differently? If the answer is no, remove it. SecureBank's executive team has access to 240 available metrics across the organization, but the executive dashboard was deliberately limited to 12 KPIs, the 12 that drive the most important strategic decisions. The second guideline is: align metrics with business objectives. Every metric you include must connect to a specific organizational goal. If you cannot explain why a metric matters to the strategy, it should not be on the dashboard. Equally, you must verify that the underlying data to calculate the metric actually exists and is reliable. Secure Bank's 12 KPIs all map to one of three strategic goals: fraud reduction, customer retention, and profitability. The third guideline is make metrics clear and actionable. Vague metrics are useless. Customer satisfaction, as a metric, tells you nothing about what to do. Net Promoter Score, measured monthly via post-transaction survey, is specific enough to act on. Apply SMART criteria at this stage. Secure Bank replaced the phrase, improve customer service, in their objectives with the precise metric. Reduce average complaint resolution time to under 48 hours. The fourth guideline is, consider user requirements. The best metric in the world is useless if the person looking at it cannot interpret it. A branch manager needs a simple red, amber, green indicator, not a regression coefficient. Design metrics for the people who will actually use them. And before you finalize your metric set, test it with real users. Their feedback will almost always reveal gaps or confusion that you did not anticipate. Let us now bring the entire lecture together in one final view. This slide traces the complete end-to-end BI journey at Secure Bank from the very first strategic decision all the way through to measurable business results. It shows that every concept we have covered today is not a standalone topic. They are all connected stages in a single continuous process. It begins with BI strategy. Before any technology is deployed, the Chief Risk Officer defines the strategic goal, selects Microsoft Power BI as the platform, and produces the three key documents: the Stakeholder Requirements document, the Project Requirements document, and the BI Strategy document. From there, the data platform is built. The ETL pipeline is engineered to extract transaction data from the core banking system and load it into the central data warehouse. OLAP cubes are built on top to enable multidimensional analysis. Then the capture stage begins. 180 million transaction records per month flowing into the warehouse, building a rich historical record of fraud patterns. The Analyse stage follows. Data scientists use data mining to identify the specific behavioral signatures that distinguish fraudulent transactions from legitimate ones. The monitor stage is then implemented. A real-time scoring model runs on every transaction as it occurs, feeding a live operational dashboard with automatic alerts and card freeze capability. And the outcome is business value, fraud detection rate up to 94%, average response time of 3.8 minutes, $38 million in annual savings, and a 22% improvement in customer satisfaction. This is the full arc of business intelligence, from strategy to data, to insight, to action, to value. Every element reinforces every other element. That is the unified picture I want you to take away from today's lecture. Let me close with a summary of the 8 key ideas from today's lecture. BI applications. There are 3 types: strategic for long-term enterprise goals, tactical for short-term departmental initiatives, and operational for real-time process monitoring. Each serves a different user with a different time horizon. BI business value. BI does not create value in just one area. It improves management processes, revenue-generating processes, and resource consumption processes simultaneously across the entire organization. BI platform. A modern BI platform supports 7 distinct styles of intelligence: data mining, OLAP, visualization, dashboards, enterprise reporting, transaction services, and mobile alerting. Each style serves a different analytical purpose. Data maturity. Organizations progress through 3 stages: capture, analyze, and monitor. Each stage depends on the previous one. You cannot monitor effectively without having first captured and analyzed. BI strategy. Success depends on managing all 3 pillars together: the right people collaborating across teams, the right processes governing data quality and governance, and the right tools that users will actually adopt. Stakeholders. Every BI project involves 4 roles: the project sponsor who sets the vision, the systems analyst who translates requirements, the developer who builds the system, and the business stakeholder who uses and validates the output. KPIs and metrics. KPIs are strategic measurements tied to business goals. Metrics are tactical measurements of execution. Use the SMART framework to ensure every KPI you define is specific, measurable, action-oriented, relevant, and time-bound. And finally, North Star and vanity metrics. Your NSM captures the core, long-term value your organization delivers. Vanity metrics look impressive but drive no action. Always ask, if this number changes, will we actually do anything differently? Our next lecture will move into data warehousing and multidimensional data modeling, the technical foundation that makes everything we discussed today possible. Please review today's material and come prepared.